Hey everyone, it's Miguel from TQP Ministries, and I want to first of all say thank you for listening, subscribing, rating, reviewing, downloading. Thank you so much. And if this is the first time that you're listening to this podcast, thank you and welcome aboard. TQP Ministries is a bilingual ministry geared towards teaching, preaching, and motivating. We believe the greatest profit you could ever make is the impact you have. And so this podcast is designed to help you be the best preacher you can be, that when you open your mouth to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ, that you may have an impact while doing so. And so today I have the opportunity, the blessing of sharing with you all a conversation I recently had with Bruce and Cindy Anderson. They are the co-owners of Alpha and Omega Parable Christian Bookstores here in Rochester, New York. Some years ago, I had the opportunity to work at their bookstore. I did that for quite some time, and it was such a blessing. Well, I wanted to sit with them as they get ready to celebrate the 20th anniversary of their bookstore. So without any further ado, I want to share with you this conversation that I had with them sitting in their back office of the Grease store location here in Rochester, New York. Of course, you're invited to the celebration that is the 20th year anniversary, but I'll talk to you more about that on the other side of this conversation. Before that, please enjoy the jingle.
Mighty King, give him all the glory. Mighty King, yes he is. Whoa.
Sitting here in the Grease store. Thank you, Bruce and Cindy, for having me here. I was talking to Bruce before you came along of you guys have been 40 plus years in marriage now.
47 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What is the biggest advice you received when entering into marriage?
Oh, dead space here. Oh, that's too long ago to remember, Miguel.
At least one advice that stuck with you and you.
It was a commitment that I made to Cindy and I made to God that I would love and cherish the rest of our lives, and that sort of guided everything. That I knew I made the commitment, so I have to continue it, and I wasn't going to give up on the marriage, and I don't think Cindy was.
No. In fact, my dad, who's a preacher, is the one who married us, and his sermon, which was really for all weddings that he did, because I played organ and I was in that, so I heard many of them, was the three-strand cord is not easily broken. And so it's man, woman, and God. Yeah. And that was something I know he stated during the wedding, and he stated it just every other wedding too. It takes three. It's not just two.
When we talk about ministry and business, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but how does that apply, or how is that advice applicable as you gear on to ministry and business?
We couldn't be doing what we're doing now if it wasn't for God. There's just no way. Yeah, you can try it in your own power. You can try it in your own abilities, etc. It doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. If God's not in it, every other bookstore in Rochester is gone, and we're still here. Heck, if I know why, but God. I mean, there's no other reason for it, Miguel. None.
What was the pivotal moment where you said, let's do this, let's dive in regards of ministry and in regards of the bookstore? What was that moment where you said, we're all in?
Well, it's interesting because early in our marriage, Cindy and I tried to teach Sunday school together. Didn't work. And I said, I'll never, ever do this again. She's got one style, I've got a different style, and working together just isn't going to work. 27 years later, after that incident, I was looking for something to do after leaving a job, and we saw an ad in the newspaper that 2 bookstores were for sale, Christian bookstores. And so we connected with the owners, and 2 months later I lost my mind completely, and we suddenly owned 2 Christian bookstores. And, at that point, she's got gifts that are different from my gifts, and only God could have brought us together to say, okay, this will work if she does what she can do best and I do what I can do best. Mm-hmm. And so we work together in that way. And when I start doing what she can do best, it doesn't work out as well.
and I have no desire to do what he does really well.
But working together under God's direction makes it work.
Mm-hmm. When you decide to bring someone on board, like to hire someone for an interview, to be part of this ministry, be part of the store, what type of character, what type of individual are you looking for to bring on board?
Well, actually, I was thinking of that question because we ask a couple of different questions in our job application, and one of them is explain salvation. And if they can explain that, and I think they have a good handle on that, then they get looked at. And there are people who have absolutely no clue, Miguel, what it means. And it's kind of like, oops, okay, because you need to know that. People coming into a Christian bookstore need to know they can explain salvation, the Bible. They can pray with them. And if they don't understand what salvation is to start out with. And the other question that I was thinking in my mind was, we had a person apply for a job just recently, and one of the questions is circle 5 different attributes that you have. Mm-hmm. And this person circled 8. And so circling some of the correct ones that you're looking for, you can't be an introvert if you meet people every day. You really can't. Yeah. But it waved a little yellow flag at me, because did that person understand 5 really meant 5? Will they follow directions if I hire them? Or were they just so excited that they all just kept on circling?
They all applied to me.
They all applied to me.
Right, and it is, and it's an issue of, can you follow direction? But it's interesting because of the breadth of people we've hired over the years. It's amazing the differences and similarities of the staff. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we don't get it right, but most of the time we do. We hire people who are really caring people that care for the customers, and many times we'll pray with the customers and witness to them, because there are people who come in that are seeking at the store. So it's not just selling books; it's being the face of Christ here.
Mm-hmm. We've had people who've walked in here we had one incident, literally the woman was fleeing from an abusive boyfriend who was chasing her at that time.
And came in here?
And came in the store, and we locked the doors and hid her in the back room until that passed. And she wrote, I want to say just about a year ago, to remind us how much we were the safe haven that she desperately needed, and she became a Christian because of that.
20 years in the business, right? 20 years in this ministry, 20 years with the store. We spoke about that instance, that testimony. That's powerful. Mm-hmm. Has there been any other testimony that you say from the very beginning, let's say 20 years ago? Was there one testimony where you said, this is it, this is God is involved in this?
Yeah, early on we had a manager who, because when we started the stores, we took over, we were green. And I mean green, like really green. We knew nothing. I could shop, yes, he could pay bills. Whoopee-doo, we had no retail experience, and that's in quotes for those who can't see me, in quotes. And our manager who had been in the business kind of helped train us. And we were obviously looking for staff. And she had written up a description of what we were looking for and was going to post it on the door. and did not get any farther than
halfway up
the store
put it in the window.
When Paula came into the store, handed the application, and said, "I hear you're looking for somebody." And Joanne kind of went,
"How can you hear it if I haven't put it up yet?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was that type of a thing. And the mesh right there was very evident that God brought staff who needed to be there at that time. And that's not the only. We've had other staff who have come simply saying, God told me that you needed some assistance here, and I've got these gifts, and that's exactly what it is. And you kind of, you see this, usually in hindsight, but you see it. So
bringing the right people into the ministry has been pivotal.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Because the frontline staff are the people that are dealing with the customers every day. If I'm in the back room working on the computer, I don't necessarily see everybody. So they are making relationships with our customers, which are very important.
I've seen on Facebook, and just having had the experience of working here as well, it really is surprising on the amount of people that walk in that are in need. But when an individual fills out an application and like the question of salvation, and you say, "Oh, this person has it so wrong," is there ever a moment where you're like, "I can bring them under my wings and they can learn"?
we have brought some
we
staff
have tried
on,
some.
and
And sometimes it works, Miguel, and other times it does not. So it's kind of a balancing act, because there are people, and I have learned we can't save everybody. We can present the gospel, but we can't, because we are the face of, we have to have people who really understand biblical themes, know how to discuss. I mean, we have customers who come in for discussion with our staff, and we can get really heavy theological discussions. And they have to know, they have to have a good basis. So we have to be very cautious. And we have staff from 12 different denomination churches.
in the Rochester area.
In the Rochester area.
Yeah,
So,
of our 16 staff, 12 different churches.
Wow.
That's a pretty broad representation of the Christian community in Rochester.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, I didn't think it was that much.
it is. It is.
That's amazing.
And it literally goes from your Catholic to your denominational churches to your Pentecostal to your charismatic. So it really
Covers the whole gamut.
It covers the whole gamut. And we're all, and that's what I was thinking of this morning, we're all joined by a very simple thing, is we had Christ who died for all of us. That is the unifying factor of the whole thing. Doesn't matter how you take communion, doesn't matter if you take communion, or any of the man-made rules, etc. That is the unifying thing, and that's what we keep trying to say. All of the merchandise in the store, all of it centers on that. And that's why we tend to not have denominational unless they ask for it. But, a book in our Christian Living section should be able to cover the whole gambit, because it all deals with Christ, his sacrifice, his resurrection, and that's where we have to kind of draw the
Unifying principles.
unifying. Thank you very much. There you go.
I see how your gifts came together. So the store being alive, thriving, the ministry, 20 years in, what would you say to that person that is, hey, I'm as green as you can imagine, and I want to jump into retail to business, but yet maintain marriage, maintain the faith, maintain those morals? What would that be? Would that advice be for that individual?
It's very difficult when you own your own business to not, especially when you're working with your spouse, not think and talk about business 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
and it's tough. It is.
Because you take it home.
So how do you not take it home, though?
You take it home.
Sorry, Miguel, you end up taking it home.
So how is it like at the dinner table where it's like, okay, this conversation ends, we close the doors, we're not talking about that?
It's been a very tough balance because in the early years, we went from 2 stores to 3 stores to 5, so we've done a lot, and that really is 24/7. You really have a hard time. And I think early on we did not pause enough. And I think being intentional about that, okay, Friday night, don't call me, etc. But it's also hard when you're a business owner and your employee gets sick, and who's going to cover? Guess what? You have to be able to do that. So we didn't intentionally do it. I wish we had in some aspects. We're getting smarter now. When I was diagnosed with cancer last year, we really didn't have an option. If anything, that has brought us, we have to take time for ourselves. We don't know how much time we have left on this earth. So we need to say, okay, what is my priority? Yes, we still have the stores. Yes, we still have a marriage. And we need to spend time together, just the 2 of us.
Early on, we did decide that the stores would be open 6 days a week. And Sundays would be for church, for both us and our staff. And Cindy, of course, was playing the organ at church. So she's been working 7 days a week for forever. But, by not having the store open on Sundays brought us a little separation there. But the rest of the time, we're intentional. Okay, we're not going to talk about work, and something about work will creep in the conversation because we both have the interest in making the stores survive. So when you jump in any ministry or any retail or any business, you're got to be committed to be all in. I mean, you're not going to be able to. When you own your own business, you don't go home at 5 o'clock and forget about it. It doesn't happen.
Well, it's like marriage. Marriage isn't 50-50. It's 100%, 100%. And I think the same thing really goes for business. If you expect, the Chick-fil-A owner over there, I'm sure he did not expect to have to be there 24/7, but he's got to be there 24/7. You don't have an option if you're going to, if you have the passion for it and you want to be in, especially retail.
Yeah.
There's a limit. You can't pull back and say, oh no.
Now, if there was one word that would describe this ministry, what would that one word be?
One word to describe the ministry. Oh boy! I mean, it's serving others. That's 2 words. But serving.
Nothing of one word can. I'm sorry. I'm not a one-word person. How's that?
So then I'll change it. If there was
sharing God's love. I mean, it's our Parable franchise. It's a haven of God's love. Because you want to. It was when this one little kid walked in the store and was, wow, this is God's store. You want people to know this is not your everyday store, that there is something else going on in here. And obviously he felt it. So if he can feel it, hopefully other people can feel that there's a difference when you come in here. Sorry, one word's not...
No, that was good. I was going to say, well, the one paragraph, and so you covered that.
Thank you.
20 years of this ministry, 20 years of Alpha and Omega, the Parable Christian Bookstores. Anything, events, any ideas that you guys have coming up this season for those 20 years?
Yeah, we're July 28th, 1998 is the day we took over the stores. So for the 20 days prior to July 28th.
Starting July 9th.
Starting July 9th. Every day we're going to have a different special. We're going to have a different event. We're going to have things to do to celebrate 20 years. So 20 days to celebrate 20 years, customer appreciation. So we're going to have prayer on the 9th. We're going to have pastors to come in on one day. The 28th of July, we'll have cake and drawings and book sales on the 30th and 31st. Every day we're going to have something different to celebrate our customers and celebrate the 20 years that we've been here.
Social media, how can anybody find those events and you all and your presence?
Yeah, we will be sending out emails to all of our 10,000 customers who sign up for our emails. We'll have it on Facebook.com/ANO Book, which is our Facebook page. We are celebrating in both stores 20 years, and it's going to be quite a July.
Come because there'll be a whole big graph for those 20 days. There's a scripture for each day that we have picked out to encourage our customers. And the first one is Philippians 4. Do not be anxious for anything, but by prayer and supplication let your request be made known to God, and the peace of Christ, which passeth all understanding. Okay, but Max Lucado wrote a superb book called Anxious for Nothing, and that's going to be 20% off on day 1, July 9th. Trust me, anxiety in this society is high. It is a fantastic book. In fact, it was one of the first books I read when it came out last year, right after I was diagnosed with cancer. I cannot even tell you how much my yellow magic marker went through on it, etc. So we have, things like that. Billy Graham's Hope for Each Day. We have $5.99 for the story. What a great way to minister to people who don't understand the Bible, to give them the story. We have authors, local authors signing. We have the 14th, Saturday is the local authors. We also have 2 national authors. One, I'm waiting for confirmation. She's local. She's been in the store before, but she is excited because she hasn't been in about 10 years. And she's coming the 28th. We have music events coming. We have a homeschool mom of 13 who's coming to speak to anybody from the homeschool Leah group or anybody who wants to learn about motherhood matters. And we have Final Harvest coming. Jim Drew is coming. There's just
a mini events.
There are. I can't even begin to tell you. Really, for those 20 days to a word of scripture to encourage. 20% off of something in the store.
20% off, 20 years.
And
maybe when it's 30 years, it'll be 30% off. 50 years, 50.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough when you reach 100.
And in fact, if you ever, one of the first events that we ever went to for a dinner at one of our conventions, the owner and his wife were 90 and 91, and they were still going strong and had a small little store in the Midwest someplace. And it just, hey, if they can keep on going.
Real quick,
Sure.
Going through cancer, being in the faith, being in entrepreneurship, being in business, being in marriage, etc., what was that one thing that kind of said, okay, I've got to keep fighting? Because it's easy to, the anxiety, the stress, and all the responsibilities, it's easy to kind of let all that swallow you in, so to speak. How did you kind of stay afloat?
The thing about my multiple myeloma, which is a blood plasma cell cancer, it's nothing I did. It's all inside me, and there's nothing I can do. Not a thing. Well, you tell me that doesn't kind of rock your boat when you're a person who is used to being in quote-unquote control. Mm-hmm. So, I can't eat all green spinach and things will get better. That doesn't happen that way. So God, He's allowed this to bring me closer to Him, to get my walk right, In fact, I know I had a conversation with one of our customers who is in councils people early on last year. I remember that. And I said, well, I've got it, but there's a reason I'm in this. So what am I to learn from this? Is that easy to do? No, it is not. Because are there days? Yes, there are days like yesterday I would like to have just crawled in under the covers and never come out. But your perspective changes. Lord, thank you. New mercies the next day. So you've got to really say, hey, my life is not necessarily normal, but I'm still alive. I'm still breathing. He's given me another day. Let's keep going.
What advice would you have for that person that's in ministry and maybe going through a physical situation or maybe just an emotional situation? This is a question for both of you because, as you said, you made a commitment to her and to God. So you're part of the journey.
Oh, he is. He's a big caregiver.
What word would you have for that individual who's going through that emotional stress and trying to balance ministry in the time of that?
Well, I will tell you right now that there is another pastor who was diagnosed just about 3 weeks ago with the same disease I have. And my phone call after my treatment was to him to say, hey, let's talk because you are starting the journey. Let me see what I can do to help assist you so you understand, because you got to understand what you've got. And then you have to understand the treatments, and then you've got to do that. And as a pastor, he's still trying to carry on. And what, he's going to have to learn, there are times he's just not going to be able to function. And, sometimes you learn it, but people need to know that they're not alone, Miguel. They're not alone. And that I think is a big thing. We go around, and all of us know that death comes to all of us, but until we're smack dab face of it, we don't think about that, and we don't think, okay, we've got to get our act together. We've got to know what we're doing. If we've been given a certain life expectancy, go ahead, look at the numbers, get scared, spend your time worrying for a short period of time and say, okay, fine, all right, Lord, that's not going to happen. Let's go on and do it. You've got to keep on going. This morning I spent a bit of time, there's a great chat room of all the MM people, and it's just superb, and I am always amazed at the response from the people. They're praying for each other. You're not alone. It's okay to scream and share, because we all know what we're going through. We all are facing, which drug is working, which isn't, how can we do this, and how can we handle this? But they're all talking about faith, which I just think is phenomenal to have. And I'm talking about people in Ireland, in Australia, in the United Kingdom, in Canada, all over the U.S. I mean, in fact, India, there's this one gentleman who's really struggling, and it's just, we're all talking and sharing, and we're not alone, and we all have that faith, which I think is just fantastic.
And God gives us that hope. That is so important today, because so many people are struggling with cancers, they're struggling with addictions, they're struggling with thoughts of suicide. The only way to get over those is the hope of Christ.
Yeah.
Keeping that hope alive, and so that's one of the things that keeps this business going, is the ministry aspects of giving people hope. That's why we're here.
Amen.
And the resources that we have, Miguel, are just, I don't think people realize how rich the resources are. And I think it's scary when we don't avail ourselves of them, because there's going to come a time when they're not going to be there, and we're going to need them desperately.
Yeah. I feel like I can talk with you guys all afternoon,
Yeah.
but I want to thank you for your time.
Well, thank you.
Definitely thank you for giving me the privilege of sitting down with you all and speaking with all of these topics. So definitely thank you so much.
Thank you, Miguel, for having us.
Thank you. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's my conversation with Bruce and Cindy. And I want to first of all say thank you to Bruce and Cindy. The opportunity to have sat down with them, I really felt like I could just continue on conversing because of the fact that there was so much information that they were allowing me to just take in. The fact that they have been able to be married for 40 plus years. And actually, Bruce and I were talking about how he and Cindy, when, you know, they had that grind, that challenge that most marriages have, that first year of really getting acclimated to each other, but still finding your groove. And just throughout the whole conversation, I was so blessed. I was so fortunate to really be able to have this conversation. I pray that this episode has been a blessing to you. Our podcast is geared towards helping you develop message and have an impact in doing so. But I wanted to sit down with them because of the resilience, because of the fact that they're headstrong, because of the fact that they know the calling, they know the plan, the purpose that God has for them, and they're going straight at it. They surround themselves with people that will nourish that vision, and they'll work. Listen, I've had the opportunity to work for Cindy and Bruce, and like I said, they work, they grind. Many times I saw them, they were the first person in and the last person out. They were just doing it, grinding, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is so necessary in ministry. A lot of times I've seen individuals in ministry that think it's going to just come overnight. It's just going to come easy. Well, I'm a good speaker. It's just going to happen. I'm going to be successful. No, you have to stay the course. You have to be resilient. You have to be courageous. You have to be bold. And as Bruce said when he purchased the 2 stores to begin this entire journey, gotta be a little crazy. I pray that this episode may have blessed your life. I know it blessed mine, and I felt like I could speak to them for hours of the day, but I was so blessed and so fortunate to have that opportunity to converse with them. If you're here in the Rochester area, you have the option of either going to the Penfield store or their Greece store. This way you could take part of the 20 days of inspiration to celebrate 20 years. It all starts July 9th, where at 10 a.m. they'll have pastors there praying with them and with you as well. Devotionals actually go on sale for 20% off, and so many other wonderful things will be taking place. This all starts July 9th, and the final day will be July 31st. You can also head over to rochester.parable.com. That's rochester.parable.com, where there you can find so much information, items that you'd like to purchase. Also, you can become part of their mailing list, where you can receive information on upcoming events, sales, and so much more. I would encourage you to head over to either location. If you head over to the Greece location, you might find our friend, Miss Miranda Brandt. Recently, we sat down as well to talk about her book. You can simply head over to tqpministries.jimdo.com, or make sure to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast on Apple Podcast, on Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and so many other platforms. Just go ahead and subscribe so you can get that alert when a new episode comes out. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for the opportunity that you've allowed me to be part of your day. Stay focused, stay on course, chase your greatness, and remember, the greatest profit you could ever make is the impact you have.